Over the last couple of years, I've spoken on this channel a couple of times about what I feel like is a fairly interesting trend in regard to smartphone sales. Anytime there is something that you would describe perhaps as an economic downturn, right? People are in maybe a worse position than they ought to be. You would expect intuitively for the most expensive devices, the most expensive things available, to be the types of things that are immediately taking that first hit, right? As people have less money in their wallet, in their purse, in their bank account, the premium devices will be the things that they stop buying, and the cheaper devices are the things that they begin buying. However, as I've discussed on this channel, that is not how this actually works, because when there is an economic hardship, the people who are first affected, first impacted by this are not the people who were buying the premium devices in the first place. They were the people buying the cheaper devices, the cheaper phones. So when this type of thing happens, it is not the ultra premium devices whose sales numbers drop. It's actually the cheaper devices. The premium devices tend to stay pretty much static. And if you look at the numbers, that is almost always borne out. iPhones, for instance, are seen as a premium segment of the device market. They are not dropping. Let's take a look here at something from July the 18th, which I did already talk about briefly, but I'm going to parlay this into another space. This is global smartphone market sell-through by OEMs, Q2 2023 versus Q2 2022, so year-over-year change. You can see here the total is a decline of 8%. The global smartphone market year-over-year is down by 8%. And let's look here. Apple is bleeding the least. They're only down by 2%, which is obviously a decline more than they'd like to see. They'd like to see growth. But when you compare it to some of these other companies like Samsung, who sells a lot of cheap phones, they're down by 12%. Now, of course, globally, they maintain a market share lead over Apple by a small amount. But as you can see, they've dropped more than Apple has. Now, of course, on this channel, I've also focused a lot on foldable phones. And the primary reason is because I think that these are kind of the only phones in the market that I find interesting at this point. Slab style phones just don't do anything for me. They're tools, they're good, they're fine, but they just don't get me excited. There's not really much to say in regard to them a lot of the time. They are also a market segment that is growing. They are one of the only market segments, maybe the only market segment, that is in fact still growing. Let's turn our attention to another report from DSCC this time, foldable smartphones to reach new high in Q3 of 2023. And here we have a couple of graphs, foldable smartphone volumes. You can see Q1 2022 through Q3 of 2023. And you can see here, we do have some growth taking place. If we go back up to the top of this article written by Ross Young, foldable phone shipments rose 16%, I'm assuming this means quarter over quarter, and 42% year over year in Q2 2023 to 2.2 million units. Samsung held a narrow 32 to 30% advantage over Huawei. And if we look at this second paragraph, it gets really, really interesting. We're not going to read this whole thing, but still. In Q3 2023, DSCC expects foldable smartphones to reach a new record high, up 200% quarter over quarter and 10% year over year to 6.9 million phones. Now, this is, of course, global, and this is considering all of the foldable smartphones. Samsung, they say, will dominate with the Z Fold and Z Flip 5 launches, earning a 72% share with no other brand even in the double digits. They expect Samsung to see considerable growth in this device segment, but also considerable growth across the board for this product segment. Comparing Q3 23 and 22, brands showing share gains include Google, who obviously just entered, Honor, Motorola, and Xiaomi. Clamshells are expected to increase their share to 55%, and Samsung's display share is expected to rise to 78% of all foldable panel shipments. And we'll pull up this chart here. We'll kind of talk over this for a moment because what you can see here is foldable phone shipments. And you can see Samsung really dominating here with the launches of their new devices. And then it does trail off a bit and then it drops down as we're headed towards the new launch. And then boom, it goes up again. And I believe Q3 doesn't end until September the 30th. So this should continue trending upward even further past this. We're not giving it the full benefit of the entire quarter. I believe that's what Google tells me anyways. So big picture. What does this mean? Well, let's think about it. Global smartphone shipments are down 8%, but foldables are up 42%. Again, phones down 8, foldables up 42. Why are we seeing more and more companies jumping on the foldable bandwagon? Well, I think you have your answer because, like the iPhone, they are actually more so than the iPhone. They are seemingly immune to the problems going on in the world. The cheaper phones are selling worse. Foldable phones are, whether you like it or not. And for some of you that have told me going back several years that foldable phones are a flash in the pan, they're never going to become mainstream, every day it looks more and more like you were wrong. Their sales are going up and up and up and up. Other phones are dropping, they are going up. I can't say it any more different ways than that. Now, guys, as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Does any of this stuff surprise you? How far do you expect this growth to go? Will foldables truly be mainstream in the sense that you walk down the street and half of everybody you talk to has a foldable phone in their pocket? If so, how long will that take? All very, very interesting stuff to speculate about. So, do that in the comments down below. Subscribe before you leave. If you want to save money on your cell phone bill, check out my channel partner down below, Mint Mobile, and do what I did and save hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars every year by switching to Mint Mobile. Guys, I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.